I'm going to give you a brief overview today of what to do when you're cop watching and how to cop watch. Cop watching is exactly how it sounds. It is you watching the cops. We watch the cops for many reasons, to make sure they don't do anything, illegal, unethical, immoral, that they treat people fairly and within the law. There are many Supreme Court cases that have affirmed that this is our First Amendment right. The things you want to capture when you're cop watching are stuff like names, badge numbers, squad car numbers. While you're cop watching, you don't need to necessarily focus on their badge for a long period of time with your camera. If you can get 1 second of that badge, that's all you need. You can move on. You can review that footage later and get that badge number. If you can call it out audibly on your camera. You'll want to call out things like the date, the time, the intersection, if that's possible, or any other landmarks that there are. Footage like this actually may be used in court, so watch what you say while you're on camera. The first thing you want to do as a cop watcher is get to know your equipment. Get to know your camera, learn the zoom function, learn night vision, learn anything you can about the camera. When you're recording police officers, you want to maintain a reasonable distance away from them. 10 to 15 feet is a reasonable distance. If an officer comes up to you and asks you to move back, take a step back, say, I'm not interfering, I'm complying with your order. I would take no more than 1 or 2 steps back. Try not to get too close to them, just because then they can cite officer safety as a probable cause to either detain you or to remove you from that area. So I would definitely keep a good distance between you and the officer. Only get as close as you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable being within that 10 to 15 feet and you're more comfortable 20 feet away, great. I mean, as long as you can capture what's going on. Now, what happens if a police officer comes up to you while you're cop watching and asks you what you're doing? First of all, you should know that you don't have to show your ID. You don't have to identify yourself. You can simply say, I'm observing. There is no reason for you to show your ID at all at this point in time. So I would suggest that you don't. They might ask you questions. You don't have to answer these questions. You can remain silent, and that's well within your rights. I've been out there where they ask me what I'm doing, and I've said, I don't feel like talking to you. I'm just going to sit here and observe. And for the most part, they've left me alone. When you're recording, don't just focus on just the individual. Do pan shots, get everything that is around you, the entire scene. You don't need those close-ups necessarily all the time. Like I said, you just capture that badge number real quick. You can go back to that later. So that's not your main focus. You want everything. You want what's going on behind you, in front of you, to the left of you, to the right of you. If someone gets arrested and is put into a squad car, call the name of that squad car that they got put into, and if you can, the officer that put them into the squad car. If there is an arrest of somebody, you probably want to get witness statements of anybody that also witnessed the arrest. So if there's any bystanders, just take your camera and get a quick witness statement, because that can be used in court. Well, if you're talking to a witness, you want to get their name, phone number, whatever like that, and their version of what happened during the arrest. Just walk up to them and say, hey, I'm such and such, I'm a cop watcher, would you mind giving me a statement on this? Some people won't want to because they're afraid. Other people are more than glad to. So if they don't want to give you a statement, I wouldn't pressure them for it. I wouldn't come off as rude or anything like that, but I would definitely ask for it. The best way to do cop watch is in teams, if possible. If you can have one cop watcher and a couple backups, that's the best way to go about it. Because sometimes the cop watcher themselves will either be detained or arrested for simply exercising their First Amendment right, and it's good to have witnesses. I know that I've been cop watching, and I wish I actually had somebody recording me cop watching, because I've had my camera taken from me, and I had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations because of it. So, if possible, get backup. If you're going in teams, exchange cell phone numbers, or have something like walkie-talkies or something like that. But I mean, in the modern age, we all have cell phones, right? They may try to keep you from watching them in various ways. They might stand in front of you. They might shine their flashlight in your camera. That's one of their favorite tactics. If they do that, best thing to do is just to reposition yourself to a better location if you can. If not, just call it their badge number, their name, stuff like that. When you're recording them, you don't want to interact with the police officers. You want to be as neutral as possible. They may come up and ask you what you're doing. Your best response is, observing, or you can even say cop watching, and that's perfectly fine. Cop watching is 100% legal. It's our First Amendment right to observe and record what our government officials are doing in public. And again, they might ask you what's going on. And you can say a lot of things. You can say, I'm just observing. This is my First Amendment right. Whatever you feel like, but keep in mind, whatever you say will be recorded. So keep it respectful, nice, and short as possible. Generally, what they'll do if you capture a crime on your cameras, have a detective come out, and they will download whatever you captured onto their computer or whatever. If you capture a crime and they want that footage, they have the right to detain you until they can get that footage. Generally, they will not take your camera. They'll just detain you until they can get that footage for their use, and that's, to me, reasonable. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. Another thing that I would recommend is, if you have a smartphone, which probably most of y'all do, is to download an app called Bamboozer. It is a free streaming app. Whatever you record on it will go off-site and be stored at in basically a cloud type thing. You can set this to be completely private or completely public, or a mixture of both. I highly recommend that in case your camera is taken, destroyed, the footage deleted, something like that. So I would definitely get Bamboozer.
If I end up on YouTube, I'm going to be upset.